This is the Used Car Dealer Podcast.
Hey, it's Zach here, and you're listening to the Used Car Dealer Podcast. We're on episode number 11 today, and we have Steve back. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm terrific. How are you, Zach?
Doing excellent. I think everyone missed you, and we have a pretty exciting topic today. We're going to talk about Carvana, and we're going to revisit Carvana again. We did an analysis of them a couple episodes ago, and again, that was all pre-COVID-19. And the day we're recording this, June 26th, Carvana's market cap has actually gone over $20 billion. CarMax has a $14 billion market cap. And since mid-March, their stock is up nearly 290%. Another automotive e-commerce player, Vroom, they went public last week. They have a little over $6 billion market cap. And another one of those players, Shift, which is out of San Francisco, they're considering going public as well through a merger. So definitely a lot of media coverage of this. And just out of curiosity, Steve, you told me that you recently helped a family member. They were purchasing a car online and they were going through Carvana. What was that experience like?
Well, first, I didn't necessarily help them. They had already, had been shopping on Carvana, and I was asked if I could act as sort of a passenger through that buying process and really get a better idea of how it works. And I certainly did.
Tell me what it was like from start to finish, or tell the audience, what it was like shopping through Carvana.
Too easy and fast. Too easy and fast. So their application, their mobile apps, it's terrific. The big advantage they have is size, clearly, right? With so many locations, such a large inventory, you can pull, I don't know how many hundreds of C-Class Mercedes as an example, just till you found just the right model you're looking for. Financing, gap insurance, warranty. The car can be purchased over the phone in less than 15 minutes, the majority of the paperwork, as I understand it. And then the only thing that had to be signed at the time of the delivery, I believe, was the registration paperwork. So it's a very seamless, transparent process. And I was impressed with the way that actually Carvana, and I've been very critical of them, just based on the complete overvaluation of their share price. But I can see why. The size, the selection, the ease of use. And let's face it, used cars are just becoming more of a commodity every day.
So what's this mean for the average independent? Like, what does Carvana mean to them, especially with COVID-19 and looking at the fact that Texas and Florida, they were opening pretty quickly. They might be slowing some of that down. So what does it mean from your perspective?
Well, the independent dealer still has the advantage on price. You can replicate many of the things that Carvana does, but think about who is Carvana really targeting, right? The larger segments of the market. There's a lot of niche opportunity. The independent dealer can beat them on with a sharper price. I think what the independent dealer needs to focus on is how they communicate to the customer. So I've talked to two dealers in the last 24 hours, one out of Vero Beach, actually another one in Florida out of Pompano, becoming customers of ours. And both of them were like, nobody calls anymore. And what are you doing about texting? Well, let me tell you something about Carvana. They were texting, my cousin all the way through the process, step by step, not too much, even following up after the sale saying, hey, if you still got a car to sell or know anyone that wants to sell one, give us a call. They make it extremely easy. From the independent perspective, I look at the one thing you could do better when I talk to dealers is the way they text. Are you still texting through your personal cell phone? If you are, you're living in the Stone Age. You're living in the Stone Age. The last two dealers I talked to both have templates, right, that they're using for texting. They're using another tool or application to be able to quickly and efficiently message their customers through text. That is the communication today. Nobody calls. A few of us that are left, my generation, But anymore, it's all about texting. And how do you communicate with your customers consistently? You can win on price, but you might lose on communication and follow up if you don't have the right tools in place.
Let me ask you this, Steve. From your perspective, having that like digital checkout functionality on your website for the average independent dealer, how important is that in the overall digital retail process? And do you think that that average independent dealer, should they consider having that like online checkout experience on their website?
I wouldn't worry about it as much on a website as I would on a mobile app. Now, I saw how it was done on Carvana, and it's so easy. It's DocuSign. I think the vehicle actually came out of Georgia. So technically it was a Georgia dealer doing a delivery in Nevada from a car that was sitting in Los Angeles. Again, like some of those DocuSigns, I think you can get done the majority of the paperwork, except some of that registration title work. So what can the dealer do? Well, today you already have an online credit application. That is a form of digital retailing. How are you collecting the steps? Are you texting back and forth, collecting the steps electronically, uploading them the right way so you can find them quickly? And as far as online checkout, show me the technology tool that's going to do it for them at a reasonable expense for the independent dealer. Does it really exist?
I think that's a great point, because when you look at a lot of digital retail products, for instance, if you're trying to integrate in the used car space where they have like legacy desktop-based technology, they might not have APIs. So it's really hard to have that connection with the DMS system. And I think that for independents, you have buy here, pay here, for example. How would digital retail work in a buy here, pay here world? I think you'll run into a lot of complexities if you have one of those models and you're trying to adopt a digital retail tool that is made for the franchise dealer audience.
Well, it's just conducting business while the customer's at home, right? And you can do that. It's not impossible. But you got to have a good process in place. And delivering the documents to the customer, these things are possible. Is it worth it on a buy here, pay here? Is it going to get you that more business? It seems to me those people just want a car to drive. Okay. They'll take the bus to get to the buy here, pay here in order if they can get transportation, if they can get approved sometimes. I think it really depends on the type of business. Highline, more adaptable, I think, that type of clientele. Mm-hmm. But a lot of our customers, a lot of independents out there, we're doing a lot of non-prime business, right? And they take stipulations, and I think the more that you can streamline that process, like I got a dealer who has a text template. When they gets an approval on a credit app, the bank comes back and says, hey, get us a copy of the pay stub, recent utility bill. The selling army on here knows how it goes. Putting a text template together and sending that to the customer, making sure you collect those documents digitally before they show up or before you deliver the paperwork. I think most dealers are trying to do that anyways, but I think we're still some years away, Zach, from that really being able to give that independent dealer that affordable tool to be able to conduct business that way. It's still a stretch. Name one independent DMS company that's even close to it. I can't think of any.
Yeah, and I think what you're bringing up is kind of interesting where, independent dealers listening or dealers who are kind of second guessing whether they need a digital retail like e-commerce checkout on the website. I think the more important point is, are you accessible? Can you text message? Can you do a remote test drive, or can you bring the vehicle to, their home for home delivery? I think it's being adaptable with, the changing times. Every state's going to continue to, change their COVID-19 restrictions more short term. And, longer term, it's being able to offer a better buying experience that's more adaptable to your customer. And that does not always necessarily mean buying a used car 100% online. Because I think there are, cases, for instance, if you're looking at inventory that's like already out of warranty, like 80,000 miles plus, you might not want to buy that car 100% sight unseen online. Or if you're caught between, should I get the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder, there's definitely value in still visiting a physical dealership to test drive.
No, I
What do you
couldn't
think?
agree more. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. More of the standard type of buyer, the Toyota Camrys, the Honda Accords, the stuff that's heavily stocked by CarMax, stuff that's heavily stocked by Carvana, Vroom, the more everyday common sold vehicles in the U.S., right? Where is that niche the independent dealer fits into? And I don't see that niche as totally threatened, but I can tell you that Carvana is doing not just prime, but non-prime finance. I think they advertise their rates anywhere between 3 and 19 or 20% or something to that effect. So, and look, they're a direct threat for sure. One thing I did mention earlier, Zach, was the communication from Carvana. It's consistent. It's precise. It tracks from the time the delivery goes out until even post-sale when it comes to following up on your tags, right? The registration paperwork, and it's systematic, friendly, and professional. One thing about the vehicle that got delivered, it was missing a tow hook cover. It was a Mercedes E400 coupe, a 15 with 18,500 miles. Okay. And actually, when they delivered it, I was there, with my cousin taking pictures. They took a photo of it and actually had filed a claim for him before they left, because apparently that tow hook they used it, the piece to take off the front to put it on the truck. Long story short, they filed a claim and it's like a $50 part they're going to replace. But outside of that, very, very seamless, pretty put together very well. How do you replicate that or compete with it? Well, I think niche, for one, the commercial vehicle market. We got a lot of dealers that really play in that, 3 to 6,000, the buy here, pay here, lots of opportunity, but you still have them on price. I think what I see with customers I talk to, dealers that are interested and want to know how to better compete, the inability to effectively text message their customers efficiently, professionally, consistently. They're in the Stone Age, and you got to have the tools to do it. And what I mean by text templates is, what do you do with somebody that inquires about buying a car from you, even though you're not selling them one, right? Do you have a text template ready to go for that? It takes 2 seconds to shoot out from your laptop or from your phone. Do you have a pre-approval link already in a text template? Somebody messages the dealership and they want to get pre-approved, that you could just text to them and they could right from their phone get approved. That's the start. If you're not doing that, you got to get your texting act together. But pricing, you still got the advantage. And, dealers are resilient, independent dealers. They're finding ways to get it done,
Agreed. And let me read you a quote. When CarMax announced their most recent earnings, they said, sales have progressively improved since hitting a tough time in April. Comparable store used unit sales for the 2 weeks ended June 14th were within 10% of last year's sale. So what we're seeing, with CarMax, for instance, in their most recent report, it looks like things are starting to bounce back in terms of used car vehicle sales. But what we're hearing from dealers, they're having a tough time at the auctions, finding the right inventory. Prices of used cars have dramatically gone up. What are you hearing from dealers on the ground right now?
Oh, the same thing. You're at auction, you're competing with, the Carvanas, the CarMaxes of the world, etc. You have to get very, very aggressive in your purchasing, not at auction, but, sourcing from private parties. I have one dealer that's telling me that he had a big sign printed up, put on the side of his building, right? We'll buy your car, da, da, da. I talk a lot about it to customers, and how to word their templates right and their text messages right and follow up on these customers and, how to more effectively go after and communicate with those customers to source inventory privately. But you got to do more of it. You got to do more of it. I'm not telling the Selly Army and the rest of the dealers on the phone here, or the podcast, I'm sorry, that, you can't buy at auction. I don't have to tell them. They're living it firsthand. I'm just repeating the news, I guess, Zach.
Yeah. And in your opinion, over the next 6 to 12 months, like what are some futures? What are some trends that you see coming down the pipeline for both independent dealers or the auto industry in general?
What are the trends? Well, everyone's coming back. The good ones are coming back leaner and stronger. You authored an article some time ago, Zach, the lean dealership, and there was a lot of wisdom in there, and a lot of dealers are they're behaving that way now in ways that in methods that you pointed out. That's important, not just in economic booms, but in crises. Should always be running lean. Well, Zach, let me ask you, what do you think's coming down here in the next 6 to 9 months as far as trends and what's in store here for the U.S. auto industry?
Great question, Steve. So I think that in terms of digital retail products, you're going to see more adoption from franchise dealers. I think used car dealers, because of price point, lack of integration, and having models like buy here, pay here, it's going to be a slower adoption rate for digital retail with used car dealers. I think that in terms of, all of the states opening up, we're seeing a second resurgence of COVID-19. So it seems like that might be slower than what we were thinking a week or 2 weeks ago. And then I think that in terms of the auto industry as a whole, you're going to see trimmer dealerships, so less salespeople. You're going to see more adoption from used car dealers of technology. I think that you'll see some smaller dealers that might go out of business due to lacking of technology, due to competition from players like Carvana, Vroom. I think it will be interesting to see over the next 6 to 9 months how Vroom has an impact on Carvana, whether Shift will go public, what CarMax would do to offer, more digital retail-like experience, like a Carvana, for instance. And then what are some of the larger dealer groups going to do? I saw that a couple weeks ago, AutoNation, they laid off a huge chunk of employees. And then we saw recently that Hertz, they filed for bankruptcy. So I think there's a lot of disruption going on in the auto industry right now. And it will really be interesting to see over the next 6 to 9 months what happens. So exciting time to be in automotive.
Yeah, bringing back what you're talking about with the CarMax was saying, they're going to tell investors, hopefully what they want to hear on that earnings call. And what else are they going to say? Well, versus last year, well, yeah, but last year you didn't have a 35% drop. That was pent-up demand. And I think there's many independent dealers that frankly outperformed, compared to last year, same month. We were within 10%. I've really heard some terrific success stories, just crazy stories about how much inventory is being sold. One guy's telling me they even had a Harley Davidson sitting there for like over a year that last month that sold. Trying to get their hands on inventory is so difficult. And with the Carvanas and the CarMaxes and AutoNations with the larger checkbooks running up the prices, man, you got to go over those private parties, right? Just work at sourcing even harder. But, I still think that, we're in for some turbulence. We're not out of the clear yet. That's clear. But what was really clear, and a couple conversations I'll share with you, this one dealer I talked to, he said, Steve, I let go of 4 salespeople. Okay, it's just me. I got, my brother here, and we've sold more cars than we ever sold before, and our grosses have taken off. We should have let those people go a long time. I've heard that story a couple of times, but of course, we want people out there working. I'm sure they do too, and doing the right things. But it's interesting just how dealers, they're so resilient, independent dealers, getting back to the fundamentals, getting heavily involved in their business, leaning it up a little bit, right? Making it stronger and then making a comeback. That is the independent dealer. They are middle America. The independent dealers makes America great. I'm hearing some really terrific stories of success out there, and let's just hope it continues.
Agreed. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Used Car Dealer Podcast. If you haven't already, remember to like and subscribe to our podcasts. And until then, I'm Zach.
And this is Steve McClory. Keep fighting the good fight.